We are young British Jews whose voices speak for the unheard many. For too long now, our voices have been ignored. Enough is enough.
Although this video is made up of people with different views, beliefs, affiliations and movements, we've all come together behind this one cause because we truly believe in it.
We as Jews stand by Israel in asserting its sovereignty over parts of Judea and Samaria, the historic heartland of Israel. And here are the 3 reasons why.
Firstly, the connection we Jews have to Judea and Samaria, Yehuda v'Shamron, both historically and religiously. Jewish presence in these territories has existed for thousands of years preceding Ottoman rule. In Hebron, we have the cave of the patriarchs, Ma'arat HaMachpelah, with the exception of Rachel, who's buried in Bethlehem, the birthplace of King David. Shechem, or Nablus, dates back biblically to Abraham when he first entered the land and is where Jacob and his family settled after fleeing Padan Aram. Jerusalem, King David's city. It's where the binding of Isaac took place and is the site of the first and second temple. Without these lands, what would Israel be? These lands define Israel.
Judea and Samaria is such a central part of the Jewish religion, Jewish history and Jewish culture that any Jewish person and any Zionist, whether they're right-wing or left-wing, orthodox, reform or secular, should in their heart, in their gut, feel sad if we were to have to give it away.
To our second point, this move is not just a recognition of the inextricable connection we Jews have to this land, but also of our legal rights to extend Israeli sovereignty to these parts.
According to the San Remo Resolution of April 25, 1920 and the Mandate for Palestine of July 24, 1922, Judea and Samaria, East Jerusalem and Gaza were all supposed to be a part of a Jewish state. These arguments are still relevant since Article 80 of the UN Charter states that all mandates of the League of Nations are still valid.
And lastly, these lands have tremendous strategic importance. The Jordan Valley is a security must for Israel. Those who say applying Israeli law in the Jordan Valley is a bad move are simply fear-mongering. What they are saying now, their predecessors said before, such as applying Israeli sovereignty to the Golan Heights in 1981, uniting Jerusalem in 1967, declaring Jerusalem the capital of Israel in 1949, and moving the government's ministries to Jerusalem in 1951. They were wrong then, and they're wrong now.
If Israel were to withdraw from Judea and Samaria, this would pose a massive threat to Israel's security. This is because the region is dominated by high terrain, and this is very useful for security purposes. Now in the past, Israel has withdrawn from other areas, such as Gaza, for the sake of peace. However, whenever it has done so, this has always left a vacuum, and this vacuum has always been filled by Islamist terror groups, such as Hamas, who seek to destroy Israel. Because of the failure of withdrawal from Gaza, the sad reality for Israelis has been that thousands of rockets have been shot at Israeli cities and towns on a regular basis. Now, if Israel were to withdraw from Judea and Samaria, who's to say that the same thing wouldn't happen again?
If Israel were to withdraw, it would put critical Israeli infrastructure such as Israeli motorways and Ben Gurion Airport into the firing line. If you're watching this, would you really choose to fly into Ben Gurion Airport if at any given moment a rocket could hit your plane? Because I know that I wouldn't.
However, there are some that argue against Israel extending its sovereignty to parts of Judea and Samaria. They often say that this will make Jews less safe in the diaspora and will only exacerbate anti-Semitism. This is plain victim blaming. It is a contemptible argument. Jews in the State of Israel are not responsible for anti-Semitism. Racists and anti-Semites are. Stop blaming Jews for anti-Jewish racism.
Those not in favour of extending Israeli sovereignty over the West Bank also argue it is an obstacle to peace.
During the first 19 years of Israel's existence, Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, was controlled by the Jordanians. During this time, they made no effort to implement Palestinian sovereignty in the area, and in 1967 they attacked Israel. If the so-called occupation of these territories was the pure obstacle to peace, that would never have happened. Furthermore, why was there a massacre of Jews in Hebron in 1929, before these borders even existed?
Why do those who oppose annexation think the Palestinians have more of an affection to Ramallah than to Haifa? Why do they think the Palestinians draw a distinction between territories within the West Bank and the rest of Israel? They do not. They believe from the river to the sea. Nothing but the dismantlement of the Jewish state will be satisfactory for the Palestinian leaders. No amount of international aid or small land concession will ever buy them out of their patriotism and self-respect. And until we grasp that, talks of a two-state solution are utterly meaningless.
Israel, for the sake of peace, has given up 70% of the land it once held. If Great Britain did the same, it would lose England, Wales, Northern Ireland and a bit of Scotland. How much more do you want Israel to give up? Israel must not negotiate itself out of existence.
You have just heard from some young, unapologetic Zionists who speak for many in our community. And we say to our community leaders, if you want our community to be truly pluralistic and inclusive, you can no longer ignore our voices.